East Georgia State College is privileged to have Dr. Lee Cheek as this morning's commencement speaker. Perhaps the most important thing I can say in his introduction is that he was selected as commencement speaker by these amazing students, and I think that speaks volumes. Dr. Cheek is Dean of the Social Sciences School and Professor of Political Science and History at East Georgia State College. He received his bachelor's degree from Western Carolina University, his master's in divinity from Duke, his master's in public administration from Western Carolina University, and his PhD from the Catholic University of America. Prior to joining us at East Georgia State College, Dean Cheek had a long and distinguished academic career. He served as Dean of the School of Social Sciences at the University of North Georgia, Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs at Athens State University in Alabama, Vice President for College Advancement and Professor of Political Science at Brewton Parker College. During his career, Dr. Cheek has often been recognized for his teaching excellence. The student body at Brewton Parker selected Dr. Cheek as Professor of the Year, and later the Jordan Excellence in Teaching Award was bestowed upon him by the college's faculty and administration. In 2002, Dr. Cheek was given Lee University's Excellence in Scholarship Award, and in 2004, he received their Excellence in Advising Award. Western Carolina University presented Dr. Cheek with the university's Distinguished Alumni Award. Now, while he's been compiling this record of scholarly and teaching excellence and administrative excellence, Dr. Cheek has also published a wide range of scholarly books and articles on politics and religion. Most recently, he completed a major new study of the origins of the American political system called The Founding of the American Republic. He is now a senior fellow of the Alexander Hamilton Institute and a fellow of the Academy of Philosophy and Letters. In our community, Dr. Cheek is a senior minister in the United Methodist Church. He's a former U.S. Army chaplain. He lives in Vidalia, Georgia, with his wife, Kathy, who's a teacher of dance and yoga. Please join me in honoring and welcoming Dr. Cheek as he comes to the podium.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope my commencement address lives up to Dr. Bomer's very erudite and thoughtful presentation. Thank you, student body. I've had many honors in my long life, but being invited by you, the graduating class, and the student body, and Student Government Association President Coleman is a great honor. Thank you very, very much. This is a special event for those of us in the academic sector. We're losing one of our closest associates, Dr. Bob Brown, that Dr. Bomer has mentioned. Bob has been an everyday work companion of myself, my esteemed colleague, Dean Palumbo, and Dr. Goodman. And I have, in the course of my life, had a very long association with the Brown family, whose benevolence and giving has had a tremendous impact on this region. For example, Bob's uncle, Bill Brown, longtime businessman, gave me $6 million when I was vice president of advancement at Brewton Parker College. Bob's brother, Robert Brown, we will go to our dining facility named after him after this service for a reception. He gave a tremendous amount, and we are very grateful to that family. And I want to thank Bob for what he has given myself. Well, Bob is giving me, well, a hard time. Seriously, Bob, we love you. Martha, we love you. Thank you for your contribution, and you will always be part of this community. It's been about a rough week. It's been exam week, and I had a few free moments, and when things are going crazy, I pull out a classic and I read it. The classic that I pulled out this week is Alice in Wonderland. And then I was reading, I was thinking about poor Alice, because graduates, you may find yourself in this predicament. I have found myself in this predicament many times. I don't know exactly where I should go. And the old Alice, confused, meets up with the Cheshire Cat. And she asks the cat, "Where am I going?" And the cat responds, "It depends on where you want to go, Alice, because everyone is going someplace." Graduates, I have both a question and a challenge for you this morning. Where are you going? I have a few guides that I hope will bring you some comfort and direction in that regard, because we, as your faculty, friends and mentors, staff, administration, and your families represented here, we want you to live a long, happy, productive life, to change the world around you. And much of that will be premised upon traveling on that productive road. And this morning we're going to talk about some guides on that road. Robert Frost, the great American poet, in his great poem, The Road Not Taken, also probably one of the most misinterpreted poems of the 20th century, talks about taking the road in life that may not be the easiest one. In fact, to quote from the great poem, "I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that made all the difference." Our mission here is to encourage you today to travel down that life where you can have a productive influence on the world, that you can make the world a better place. You will come to those challenges in your life. Some of you have already been down some of those roads. All the great religions known to humanity urge us, amidst the confusion, the chaos of the world, to travel down that productive road. For example, in the Hebrew Bible, in the Psalms, there are two roads, the road of life and the road of death. Travel down the road of life, even when it is sometimes the most difficult, the most challenging, the most bewildering. Take that path. The Holy Book of Islam, the Quran, talks about take the steep path in life. Take the path that you can help others. Take the path that you can have a positive influence on the world. You can help those who can't help themselves. Do not take the easy path. And then the Gospel of Luke. For Christians, Jesus comes to a crossroads where he can travel south and avoid what is going to happen at the end of his life, or he can travel north to his certain death. And we know which road he traveled. He took the path of greatest resistance. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have 4 quick guides for you. As a longtime speaker, I realize that the best speeches are usually most direct, short, and without too many extra items thrown in. First guide. Desirable means do not always lead to deserving ends. You've got more advantages than any other graduating class before. I don't mean that you personally have all those, but you have advantages. For example, the communication scholars, the technology scholars tell us that we have in the world today 4.9 billion electronic devices that can talk to each other. This is growing at a rate of 30% every 4 years. You have the capability to communicate, to reach out, unlike any generation will ever have before. But unless we use that insight, unless you use those gifts to go out and make a positive influence on the world, they are literally worthless. Unless you use the gifts that are available to you and will be available to you long after I've retreated to the Methodist home, they are useless. The great American writer, Henry David Thoreau, of whom we have one of the world's best known articulate scholars on Thoreau, my good friend Dr. Brazier. Thoreau was asked, would he like to have a telegraph connected to his house. He had become a great writer. Would you like to have the telegraph in your house so you can communicate to the world? And he said, no, not really. I don't really want to talk to those people. What good is communication? What good is technology if husbands don't talk to wives, parents don't talk to their children, grandparents don't talk to their children and grandchildren and those in their community? It is literally of no use. The great American humorist, for example, Will Rogers, was invited to ride on the first transcontinental luxury line, the train from New York to Los Angeles. He was going to be the comedy act on that train. Mr. Rogers, would you leave with us in New York and come to us to California? If you will go with us, you'll start out in New York, but by the time you get to California, you're going to be a different person. You'll be so enlightened. You'll be so knowledgeable. The people around you will be changed if you'll just travel with us. Will Rogers said, are you crazy? I'll be the same rough customer when we land and end our train ride in California as I was in New York. Technology itself was not going to transform him. We have great advantages that we have never had before that you will experience even more than elderly people like myself have experienced. You can travel. You can go places where we've never gone before. We could leave right now, all of us, graduates, you, me, we might even bring Dr. Bomer with us if he's best behavior. We could go to Paris. It's a great city. Well, they have the great great environmental conference right now. We could get on a plane. We could go to Atlanta. We could be in Paris by the evening. Have some chocolates and some non-alcoholic wine there by the river. Our bags may end up in Tokyo. We've got great ability to move, but it's not, unless we do it for the right reasons, we're wasting our time. Our prayer, of course, is that you will make great wealth and you will share some of that wealth with East Georgia State College. Ms. Gilmer would agree with me. We are about to experience in America the greatest transfer of wealth that the world has ever seen. 72 million baby boomers who are going to inherit $8.4 trillion by 2030. That's a lot of cash. Unless that cash is used for the right reason, unless that's put on the right road to a productive life, to making this a better society, we might as well just burn all of it. Desirable means do not always lead to deserving ends. Next guide. The wrong roads inevitably lead to the wrong place. Wrong roads always lead to the wrong place. Shortcuts have become a way of life in American society. Some of you have tried some. We've all tried them. Make the tough choices. Live the good life. Take on the challenges. Early this semester, I was in the bookstore, and a guy came up to me. I'm a political scientist. I teach Political Science 1101. Every one of you have taken that class. Every one of you passed it. Praise the Lord. There's a guy in the bookstore with an American government textbook. He comes up to me and says, Cheek, I heard you the oldest guy here teaching American government. You taught this, or somebody told me you taught this for 30 years. I said, that's right. And he said, look at this book. It's already highlighted. I won't have to read the textbook. I opened up the textbook, looked at the abbreviation of the name in the book. I had this students for a couple semesters in a row. I said, I guarantee you, if you follow this highlighting, you'll be repeating the class. Shortcuts always end up costing us. Many of you will go into the business world. Your challenge as a graduate of a liberal arts institution with broad knowledge in many areas is that when you're confronted with the great question, is it legal, to realize that that is in itself the wrong question. That's too simple, too easy. What you want to ask the question, is this moral? Does it make the world around me a better place? Because the wrong roads always lead to the wrong places. When I graduated from college at 21, I went immediately to work in Washington, D.C. in the U.S. House of Representatives as a legislative assistant, working for a member of Congress. I was from the backwoods of North Carolina. I didn't even own a suit. And I went to work in a congressional office. I had no money. 4 guys living in an apartment in the District of Columbia. I had no money. In fact, for lunch every day, I could not afford to eat in the congressional dining room. I couldn't go into town. There was a kiosk outside where they served hot dogs. And I got a $1.25 hot dog every day. That's why I'm mildly obese today. But I was invited to a party. I was innocent. I was a good student of politics, but I knew nothing about the world. I was invited to a party, and they said, hey, Cheek, why don't you come to this party with us? And I said, well, what kind of party? He said, well, we got some, it's going to be really cool. We got some, it's going to be a lot of stuff there. In fact, one guy's going to bring some cocaine. I didn't know what cocaine was. That's how innocent I was. But I knew that if it was something that was going to affect me in a negative way, I probably should avoid it because I'm a guy who has trouble with too many Diet Cokes. I didn't go to that party, and I'm not a great moral arbiter. I'm not a great source of restraint. But what happened within a few months is a number of congressional staff members were arrested. Some members of Congress were forced to resign. There was a cocaine scandal in the House of Representatives. It was a sad event and atypical. Most people in Congress, most congressional staff members work very hard. That was one of the roads. I've gone down the wrong road many times in life. That's one road I didn't, and I'm proud of that. Many times we are attracted by the allure of the world, whether it's money, wealth, connection, and we get distracted, sort of like the young boy whose cell phone didn't work. And he's chasing a butterfly. And he sees the world's most beautiful butterfly. And it was killed by his cell phone. No. He chases that butterfly. It's beautiful. It's the most ornate creature he's ever seen. He grabs the butterfly, holds it, captures it. It's his forever. And in doing so, he's killed the butterfly. If we travel down that wrong road, that road of distraction that keeps us from living a purposeful, dynamic, caring life, then we have failed. Next goal. Next lesson. Setting goals is easier than reaching them. Some years ago when I was dean at the University of North Georgia, a high school class of Habersham County asked me to speak to their annual meeting. It was a class of 1950. And I started doing a little research on that class, and I realized that the class, I looked at the American, the educational surveys of 1950, that the teachers complained most. Think about what they might have complained most about in 1950 in an American high school. Skipping class. We don't have that problem, of course, at East Georgia State College, so I won't belabor it. Chewing gum. And they wanted me to relate 1950 to 2011. 2011 is a different story. Terrorism in schools. Gun violence. And I had to admit to them that we lived in a different world and that the world had changed. Even though we had had more educational goals as a society and as educators than ever before. Set realistic goals. Restrain yourself. Try to think of what is ultimately most important for you and your family. Many years ago when I was in the Army, I had to go on the treadmill. They have something called a profile. I'm sure Dr. Redenkamp has never been on that, but it's when you're slightly overweight. And so on this treadmill, they measure you over a period of time. Some of you had heart issues, you know what I'm talking about. When I got on this treadmill, I thought I was a young officer. I could do anything I wanted. I got on this treadmill. After about 10 minutes, I realized I was sweating profusely. I was about to pass out. I was having dreams, speaking in tongues. I don't know what I was doing. I was having a bad all-around experience. And the nurse said, "Do you want the treadmill to stop?" I said, "Praise the Lord." I realized at that point, as a young professional, that my life was a lot like that treadmill. It was going faster and faster, and I was going nowhere. In fact, I was even getting behind. And you know what happens if you finish first in the treadmill of life, what that makes you? That makes you the number one rat. You're not first in the world, you're just first on the treadmill. I had great goals, and I was following those goals, but in reality, I was accomplishing very little. Goals are easier to set, but harder to meet. My last guide for you, ladies and gentlemen, is ultimate purpose is more important than persistence or determination. We live in a society that says if you work harder, if you spend 80 hours a week, 60 hours a week, you're always going to be successful. That's not true. Use the learning that you have acquired, the liberal learning, diverse fields of study, deep knowledge, and some of you will improve upon that by continuing your college education. Your ultimate purpose is much more important than persistence or determination. Our society misleads us when it tells us just work harder and everything will be cool. Unless you have an ultimate purpose guiding you, ultimate set of principles that will sustain you, you will not be as successful. In America, in the last 20 years, our economy has grown nearly 60%. Huge increase in productivity. But that's of no use unless it makes American lives better. If it makes the world that you inherit, and potentially your children will inherit, if it doesn't make it better, if we don't have an ultimate purpose, we're wasting our time. The great North Carolina novelist Clyde Edgerton has a great novel where a grandmother tells a granddaughter, "Your history longer than you are fact." And what she means by that statement is that the life you've lived, the pattern you've given, your ultimate purpose is much more important than any single act of your life. The message that you transmit to those who will follow after you is of much greater importance than any single action or any single activity of your life. We are very honored by you, ladies and gentlemen, and your success. We pray for your great successes in the future. Travel down that right path, live productive lives, and we love you. Fight the good fight. Thank you very much.